Thank you. Well, let's see if it's more interesting. I think it certainly has a dynamic way. Well, Evelyn, we've known each other through ION, Institute of Neurodiversity, and that's where you were. That's where we met on a meeting, and then you joined the program.
Yes,
Um, can you please introduce yourself and your research focus?
yes. I'm Evelyn Lynch, and I will be referring to my notes. I'm getting nervous. So um, I was invited by Stephen as a liaison for the research fellowship. I am somebody that has been living with a question uh, about for most of my life of um, what my research is pertaining to. I'm ADD and dyslexic, and the research I'm presenting today is not something I came through academia. It is something that is a lived experience for me. For most of my life, I was handed the expectations of who I was, and that didn't fit. Um, Too sensitive, too much, not trying hard enough, doing her, too dramatic, which I find funny. The expectations have changed depending on who is doing the explaining, such as teachers and doctors, family members, employers, and they all agreed. The problem, of course, was me. And so it was, I guess when I was about 8 years old, I had already been held back. I was labeled with a learning disability. Exactly what that was, they weren't sure, and also ADHD. In those days, which I'm dating myself, it was in the 70s, and the courses or classrooms that a student would be put into were predominantly for severely handicapped children. And it was devastating for me personally, well, obviously personally. And as a child that was labeled with a learning disability, I wasn't able to read at 8. Again, I was held back, and I definitely would rather have not been in school whatsoever because it was not a positive environment for me. I felt like I didn't belong, and it was after numerous meetings and medication, a decision was made that these special education courses would be the best place for me. Unfortunately,
Okay.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, sorry. This is very interesting. I think our time is limited. So what I hear about disabilities, you mentioned misidentification, which is
Yes.
often regarded as a disability, but often it isn't.
Mhm.
And I understood that this led to research question. So what
Yes.
is it? And why does this matter?
So my research question is, of course, I've just forgotten it. So let me grab my notes, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. Um,
Well, I've got it here. You said how does
yeah.
early misidentification actively distort self-understanding in neurodivergent adults, and how does that distortion persist even after eventual identification?
Yes.
So, how did you come to this question?
So I came to this question through, again, personal experience. Um, as someone that is not an academician researcher, I considered many questions, but what struck me was my personal experience as someone that has been misdiagnosed or misidentified, and that is what led me to my question.
And you talked about misidentification. What is the main problem? What do you mean by this misidentification that you mentioned?
So misidentification, which could include wrong a diagnosis, but also the explanations we receive from teachers and family members, being told that we're
Well, it may lead to identity distortion.
yes.
And what does that look like in practice?
So that I'm actually not quite sure.
You mentioned a few steps. Perhaps you can clarify those steps. If I just list them, the first stage is misidentification,
Yeah.
and the
So that
second is internalization. The third one is identification, and fourth is reconstruction. It's a
yes.
cycle, isn't it?
Yes, it is a cycle, and it's unfortunate, but yes, it's definitely a cycle. And so when I think of an adult and individual that is dealt with the misidentification, internalization, and identification, the last stage, I guess you could say, would be reconstruction. So that is, I guess, where I am in the sense of me personally, but then I see other adults experience the same thing, and how can someone rebuild their self-understanding without support. So in a community, I believe is where I'm going with that.
Oh, you mentioned literature, and that's you said that's the report from Block, Jacobs and Fiedler in the Gerontologist mentioned that 1 in 4 autistic adults and 1 in 3 autistic women report psychiatric misdiagnosis before correct identification. I think this shows the importance of your research, and this was highlighted by a conference by the ION a few weeks ago, led by Professor Charlotte Veller and Professor Dr. Sabina Brennan, linked to ageism. So it's quite urgent. What did your survey find in this light?
So I had a little issue with my survey, unfortunately. So I didn't have any responses, to be honest with you. So the survey, other than my research and personal experiences, my survey was not as successful as I hoped it would be.
Well, perhaps the content was not successful, but I think that, well, we talked about it, and you said that the stance of the researcher is most important, to be honest, and to use reflexive methodology framing.
Mm-hmm.
This is perhaps not a novelty, but at least it's uncommon in many forms of research. And could you tell me about the implications for support and systems?
Yeah. So professional support it does exist through therapy, coaching, counseling, and so forth for people who can access it. But it can be tough because there are costs associated with this type of support. So the access isn't always equal, wait lists long, etc. And not every practitioner, from my reading and research, not all practitioners understand what the late identification means for someone's sense of self. The gap I am running into is not that the support does not exist, but that there's nothing specific designed for this stage that is widely acceptable. A companion resource is not a replacement for professional support, obviously. It is something to have when professional support is not available while one is waiting for it. And the wait times can be extensive for someone to get into see a professional therapist or counselor. So that distinction does matter to me because people who need this most or most often are the least resource to access formal systems. And
what you mentioned when we talked about this, and I think this will also be of interest for Perry, is that it's the long linear work of not the non-linear work of rebuilding self-understanding on accurate foundations. That's what the reconstruction is about. And this is where most people are left without support. I think that was one of the key points you identified.
Yes. And I personally have also experienced this in the cost for therapy and counseling and not having a strong community. It building that reconstruction can be a negative experience for someone. And in my work, my full-time position, I work with clients that deal with this on a daily basis, where the finances aren't there, the cost is just extravagant, and they are at this phase where they're trying to reconstruct their lives, reconstruct their identity, and they're just not able to because there isn't a community that is there for them.
And what comes next?
What comes next? It seems to me that the research is there and growing. What I feel, well, not I in taking on this endeavor, I was struck with the end goal. What type of solution would there be for someone like me? And that would be accessible, supply a community, and preferably free. And so I decided to work with a program that was offered through the Neurodiversity Foundation, and building a platform for my question in dealing with the misidentification through all the stages in the reconstruction. So for me, what comes next is working on that project and hopefully coming up with something that would benefit others like myself.
Okay, and now about the methodology. You also mentioned that, well, most research is about an idea and working towards the idea to have a so-called plot. Then you said about yourself that you're more spontaneous, more like a pantser, which may be very useful in alternative literature, like in the stream of consciousness. um, but not it's not it's not always easy and maybe challenging in research. At the same time, it may be liberating that you just depart from what you see and thus have less biases that are that are standing in your way. How do you see the advantages of the advantage of what is generally considered a disadvantage?
I'm sorry.
Being the advantage of being a pantser.
Mhm. The advantage of being a pantser. I feel like it is, for me anyway, there's less limitations. I'm allowed to be more creative and without restriction. I think for me that is the advantage and yeah, that's
And to
it.
call upon your pride, what can the world learn from you?
Pardon me?
To call upon your pride, what
Mhm.
are you proud of? What can the world learn from you?
What am I proud of?
From the way you're doing, not what you do, but mostly who you are and how you
Uh,
see the world.
so the, I see the world as possibility. Considering someone like me and my background, and I am stepping out of my box, um, more or less jumping out of my box. Um, I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
Never mind. You show your authentic self, no matter what people ask.
Yeah, I think that's important too.
Is there anything else you would like to add to what you wanted to say that I may have not asked? Would you like to share?
well, I need to acknowledge the fact that, well, that I'm even here, and thanks to you, you invited me, and we met through Ion, and I feel very fortunate. I This is not something that I would typically do, and I tend to be a very nervous and anxious person. So I am, like I mentioned earlier, stepping very far out of my comfort zone. And the way I see it is there are doors. There are little doors that open, and you have opened one. Ian has opened one, and my Ian path had started with a post from Jan Kramer, I believe is how you pronounce his name, which led me again to Ion in the chat, which led me to you and your invitation. And I am so thankful and fortunate that I have been walking through these little doors that have been opening. Um, Not always easy, obviously, but I'm very, very thankful. So thank you. And
Well, you're most welcome. Great to have you on board here. And after the meeting, we will go through the question and answers and decide what you would like to share for the people who have listened or people who could not attend. That at least there will be something more sustainable after this session.
okay, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Perry, would you like to lead the questions, please?
And here's Perry, and there are no questions in the Q&A. So
fine.
That makes you happy, Evelyn, right? That's good news.
I'm just being honest.
You did very well. No worries. And Stephen, what a good sidekick you are. I think both of you, you should tour on the world together. I think that's the perfect fit. What do you think, Stephen?
I think yes, I think that's a great idea, and then to see how we can enhance our creativity. We're both in art, we're both in writing. Uh, the style may be different, but I think we can stimulate each other,
I
Yeah.
love that.
and thus show how art can also connect. Science is one part of the world, and often it's looked upon different from art, but in fact it's two sides of the same coin.
I agree. And you were talking about, Evelyn, you were talking about comfort zone. Maybe I know a fun exercise for everyone who's here listening right now, and if you're listening to the recording and watching, take a pen and paper immediately. Go in and take a pen and paper. Make a drawing, a circle, and a big circle on the whole paper, and write down in the circle all the things that you have. So you have your house and your dog and your spouse and your car and your research funds and whatnot. What is everything is there. And then outside of that circle, you write down the things you want to have, but you haven't established yet. And this is such a fun exercise, I think, is to see your comfort zone. In the circle, that's your comfort zone. And if you want to establish things that are not in that circle, it's outside of the circle. And to go there, you need to expand your circle and you need to widen your comfort zone. And in order to do that, you need to do things that are not very pleasant because otherwise it's not outside of your comfort zone. So, Evelyn, good job being here today. A lot of
Thank you.
respect for you.
Amazing.
I love it when people widen up their circle to expand their comfort zone. This is
Yeah.
how you create possibilities. You spoke about that when Stephen asked you how you see the world, who you are, and you see a world with possibilities. I think people should expand their comfort zone and do something that scares them so you can achieve more and see more possibilities.
I
Thank you for
agree.
being here, Evelyn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for helping, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. It's great to
Yeah.
work together.